to the studio in our series of interviews with candidates in the upcoming provincial election. Jen Deck of the New Democratic Party, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Jen, it's a pleasure to have you here, and especially it's your first time in the studio and a first-time candidate. Our audience probably doesn't know a lot about you. Obviously, you've launched your campaign recently, but the NDP Party was late in getting a candidate here in Peterborough-Kawartha. But tell us a bit about yourself and your connections to the Peterborough-Kawartha riding.
Sure. I grew up in Toronto, but I left for university and came here to Peterborough to go to Trent University. And basically, aside from 2 individual years where coincidentally I had my children, I've lived in Peterborough for the past 30 years. And so my kids have gone to school here, I've worked here. Most of my friends now are from Peterborough, and I love it.
Well, and you are a teacher, but you're also involved with the union. So tell us a bit about your background and your vocation.
Sure. I came into teaching when I came into teaching at a time when hiring was tough. And so I was an occasional teacher, and I found myself in a situation, as many people do, where they had to call their union and ask for help. And so I did that, and the union helped me out, and the annual meeting was coming up, and I thought, I guess I should go to this. First time I'd ever been to a union meeting. And by the end of that meeting, I had been elected onto the executive, and 2 years later, I was the president of the OSSTF Occasional Teacher Local for KPR. So really, to me, that was not something I was aspiring to, but the need was there, and I felt called to support my fellow workers. And so I was president of OSSTF of the OT local for 4 years, I believe. And then I became the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation with occasional teachers, and I've been doing that for the last 5 years.
Now, occasional teachers and the whole issue of having so many teachers part-time has been an issue provincially for many years, and we would hear stories about teachers that just couldn't get on with the board. And it's interesting to know there is a separate union for that group. The NDP party obviously has some platform issues related to education. Is there anything they're going to do to specifically help the group you know the most? Is there anything that the NDP party will do that the other parties aren't, that will help people that are trained as teachers get into full-time paying career jobs?
Yes. What I can tell you is, ironically, sometimes work in education, it's feast or famine. So you can come out of Teachers College and there's tons of jobs, and you can come out of Teachers College and there's no jobs. It really has nothing to do with you as a person or as an educator. And so the work is quite precarious as an occasional teacher, and many of my members are working for 6, 7, 8 years. And they're having children, and they're developing knee issues, and they're going through life like everyone does, but with this precarious work of daily supply with no benefits, and so they definitely need the support. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about for this population is access to work, fair access to work. And so I'm very hopeful that we can get to a place where occasional teachers have some protections and don't have to take risks for such a long period of their career before they actually have a settled financial security.
Yeah, and that's endemic with a lot of careers,
yes.
But it's really emphasized with teachers who are a big part of the population, influential unions, and a big part of our economy. Let's talk about you and the NDP party, and it's no surprise you're a union leader. Joy LaChica ran in the federal election, a union leader, and is running in the upcoming municipal election. But turning your eyes to becoming the next MPP for Peterborough, what made you decide to come in? And I mentioned in the intro, it took the NDP some time to come up with a candidate. Were you always interested, or did they come calling and you stepped up? And can you explain why it took so long? And did you need some convincing, or what was the story there?
Sure. First, I want to say Joy LaChica is wonderful, and she's a force, and I wish her all the best in the municipal run. We'll be lucky to have her on our municipal council. But yeah, if you'd asked me a month ago that if you told me a month ago that I'd be sitting here, I would have laughed you out of the room. I was asked, I was approached, and I'm a regular person. I vote NDP, but like most people, I mostly pay attention to the NDP when election time comes. I know that the party aligns with my values, but I'm not deeply involved. So when I had been watching, and I was aware that there was no NDP candidate, and I was concerned because I wanted somebody to vote for. And then I got a phone call, and I was asked if I would consider it. And of course, my immediate answer was, of course not, that's ridiculous. But luckily they called a few days later. They asked if they could do that, and I said yes. And they called a few days later, and I now had a chance to think about it. And like many opportunities in my life that have come about, I thought about what I could bring to the role. And the more that I thought about it, the more I thought, I'm actually quite well suited to this job. As a union leader, I listen to my members and I find out their problems and I help find solutions and I negotiate for improvements. And certainly I know that there's more to the job of NPP than that, but I've had 8 years of working on that. It's something that feeds my soul. It makes me feel good. And so I feel that this is a call to service. We need an MP, we need a good candidate for the NDP party, and I believe I can do that. And I'm just really excited at the opportunity of having a new challenge. It's a big increase in challenge for me, but I do feel like I've been working along this path for a long time.
And of course the biggest impact is the higher profile and coming on shows like this and,
exactly.
and talking to the rest of the world. So anyway, we're glad you're here, and appreciate that, that rationale. What do you think is the most important local issue that an MPP could have an impact on here in Peterborough and Kawartha?
From my own experience, the two things that pop up immediately, and COVID has really highlighted these, is healthcare and education. Education because this is my focus, obviously. But I'm hearing, as I've been just in the last 3 weeks that I've been talking to people and talking about this this challenge that I'm taking on, I can't tell you how many people have brought up homelessness and also concern about the loss of social services and the privatization of social services. So those are two topics that I know resonate with all of Peterborough-Kawartha.
And the current government has invested in healthcare, building hospitals, but the NDP seems to be concerned that that's not the answer. What would your party do to ensure that people had access, continued access to healthcare, and is there a negative aspect to any type of privatization for healthcare?
The problem with privatization is that's dollars that are going into bonuses and going into owners' pockets. My mother, for example, is in a long-term care facility. She is in she has end-stage Alzheimer's. And I believe that the statistic that I've heard most recently is that my mother gets about 5 minutes of personal interaction with a caregiver every day. And that's just outrageous. The NDP is committed to taking away, to moving to, the NDP is committed to eliminating private LTCs because that money, our taxpayer dollars, need to be going to caregiving of our loved ones and not to the corporations. So that resonates with me.
We learned a lot about what was going on in some of these long-term care homes, and there are some very good private ones and some not run so well, even public ones. There's a different scale for all of them. Do you feel that the current government has done enough? They're paying PSW PSWs more, they're investing more. I probably know the answer, but and maybe that's not the way to phrase it, but many people would say they've actually taken some action, but you don't think that they've taken enough, and what would the NDP do to correct the situation in long-term care homes?
Well, I mean, as you say, some of the private facilities during COVID, we were finding that residents were lying in hallways and were uncared for, and those same companies were given 30-year contracts.
Yeah, and people do say, there was a 15-year Liberal government that got us in that position, and,
right.
and it's certainly a talking point the NDP is using, or even the current Conservative Party, because it certainly needed some attention. Tell us a bit about Andrea Horvath. We had her on Politically Speaking here in Peterborough probably 5 years ago, and I know she's from the Hamilton area, but tell us why you think she would be a good leader. And she's certainly been in politics for a long time. Would love to have a turn as Premier, and she's certainly given it a good try. But what do you see as her values? And she was here for your campaign launch, which obviously she cares about this riding. Yes. It must be nice to have your leader come to help you do that.
Oh, absolutely. That was a real pleasure for me. I really like Andrea. I think she speaks with passion, and she doesn't. Perhaps the passion doesn't come through tonally, but she cares, and she knows so much, and she speaks with such knowledge, and she's led this party to the strongest position that it's been in many years. So we are poised. We are in a great position to win, and that's largely because of the leader of the party. So I'm very excited for her to have her chance to show Ontario that she can lead the party, lead the government.
I was just thinking back, and saw another candidate we used to have on the show before he was a candidate was Sean Conway, who ran a very successful campaign. He came very close to, he came in second, and the incumbent came in a distant third. Do you feel you can achieve the same kind of success? I mean, obviously you'd like to win the riding, but what's going to make the difference to take it to that next level? That the NDP made some great gains, and what are you going to be doing to try to get there so you could be the next MPP?
Right. Well, Sean's done a great service for our local party, because he's put us in really good financial position, and so that may make all the difference for us to be able to get over that finish line. I hope that I can bring my passion and my confidence and my enthusiasm. Certainly, I hope that people will vote for me because I think I'm a good person. But I have also a very strong team behind me and a really strong riding association, and I mean, I'm just getting to know them myself, but I'm amazed at the depth of experience that the Riding Association has. So I know that I'm in very good hands with them, and I know that the central NDP is also throwing a lot of support my way. So I think that I have a good chance of winning. I certainly intend to win.
Now, you obviously have a career as a teacher, a union head. If you are successful in being elected, and you've been doing this a week or two, is the bug there enough? Can you tell yet if this is something you might do again? Because it's very rare for someone to get elected first time around. It does happen, but have you picked up that bug? Do you think this is something you might want to add to your resume going forward?
It's too early to say, but I will say it has been. This has been an exhilarating experience the last 2 weeks. I feel like I'm so lucky because I have the best of both worlds. I love my job. I absolutely love the job that I currently do, and I'm fortunate that I have been acclaimed for another term, so that job is sitting safely for me. But we'll see. I mean, I'm pretty excited about this upcoming challenge, and maybe this is the new Jen. I don't know.
Well, from what we've seen, you certainly have enthusiasm, and it's a great opportunity. I appreciate you coming here on the show. Just before we wrap up, we've got about 30 seconds. Tell us the next step for you. Will you be knocking on doors, attending events? Tell us what you're thinking about and when you're going to start doing that.
So I'm really looking forward to starting to door knock. I had a positive COVID contact, so that sort of threw me behind a little bit. but that's been resolved. And I've started doing some phone canvassing. I'm learning all of this as I go, so I'm really excited. Every time that I've met with somebody, let me put it this way, I've had people walking into the campaign office while I'm washing windows, and the interactions that we've had have been so positive, and I'm seeing people out in the community, and it's just such a joy to talk to people, and I hear the enthusiasm. There's such a buzz. People are, waving at me and going, "Thanks for running." It's just such a blast.
Well, yeah. Jen, well, we're out of time. I want to thank you for coming, joining, spending a bit of time with us. Yeah, we've got to be safe on the campaign trail. We might have to do things a little differently because of COVID, but be safe, and thank you for stepping up to run as a candidate in the upcoming election. And we'll see you on May 18th at our live all candidates meeting and debate. So
I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Jen. And we'll see you next time on Your Vote.